Yamunatiravanachari. Thank you. Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Rajajanna Ranjana. Yashodanandana Rajajanna Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamunatiravanachari. Yamunatiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. So, today we are reading from most exalted books. Jal Goswamis are considering the main proof and main basis for all the other scriptures. This Lakhu Bhagavatamrita. Lakhu is really easy, really light, and still it is quite extensive, explaining about different incarnations and expansions of the Lord, giving complicated and not easy to remember names of Sanskrit for each of them. But there's a main verse in every book, and Srimad Bhagavatam has this Paribhasa Sutra, which is the seed verse of all rest of the book. It's called Eti Chamsha Kala Pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So there's many amshas, parts and parcels and expansions, but Krishna is the ultimate person from in all other incarnations come. Is also confirmed by Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So Krishna is the cause of all the other causes. So therefore we are today reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the literary incarnation of Lord Himself, and Canto 3, Chapter 21, text 26, 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So repeat after me, please. Sacheha viprarajashir. Sacheha viprarajashir. Mahishya shatarupaya. Mahishya satarupaya. Ayasyati didrikshustvam. Ayasyati didrikshustvam. Parashvo dharma kovida. Parastu dharma kovida. This is very... sorry. Mahishya satarupaya. Asya rikshurukstustvam. Rasta karma kovidaha.
Sacheha viprarajashir.
Sacheha viprarajashir.
Mahishya shatarupaya.
Mahishya shatarupaya.
Ayasyati didrikshustvam.
Ayasyati didrikshustvam.
Parashvo dharma kovidaha.
Dharma kovidaha. Mataji?
Sacheha viprarajashir. Mahishya shatarupaya.
Mahishya satarupaya.
Ayasyati didrikshustvam.
Parashvo karma kovidaha.
Sacheha viprarajashir. Mahishya shatarupaya.
Mahishya satarupaya. Ayasyati didrikshustvam. Parashva dharma kovidaha. Sacheha viprarajashir. Satarupaya. Dharma kovidaha. Saha Swayambhu Mano Cha and Iha here Vipra O holy Brahmana Rajarshi the saintly king Mahishya along with his queen Shatarupaya called Shatarupa Ayashyati will come. Didrikshu desiring to see Tvam, you. Parashva, the day after tomorrow. Dharma, religious activities. Kovida, expert. We have nice COVID verse today, which is in Sanskrit quite similar to the expert. So we have a very expert situation currently here. Close to end, hopefully. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The day after tomorrow, O Brahmana, the celebrated emperor who is expert in religious activities will come here with his queen, Shatarupa, wishing to see you. So there is no purport in this verse, and we will not do it same. Next verse, 27, sounds like that. Atmajam ashtiparagnanim yaja shila gunan vitam mriganyanantim patim dashyat anurupayate Prabhu. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. He has grown up daughter whose eyes are black. Must be very important. She is ready for marriage and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver her daughter as your wife. Purport. The selection of a good husband for a good girl was always entrusted to the parents. Here is clearly stated that Manu and his wife were coming to see Kardama Muni to offer their daughter because the daughter was well qualified and the parents were searching out a similar qualified man. This is a duty of the parents. Girls are never thrown into the public street to search out their husband. When the girls are grown up and are searching after the boy, they forgot to consider whatever the boy is selected actually suitable for them. After the urge of sex desire, a girl may accept anyone, but if the husband is chosen by the parents, they can consider who is to be selected and who is not. According to Vedic system, therefore, the girl is given over a suitable boy by the parents. She is never allowed to select her own husband independently. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swatavantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In no way I'm most qualified here to give a class, so therefore I ask for the permission and blessings of all devotees, Vaishnavas who are here, to talk about the subject. And one very vivid memory comes to my mind. A few years back in Radhadesh, in the beginning of a class given by Loknath Swami Maharaj, who knows him personally, or has heard of him. He was chanting Radha Madhav in such absorption that he completely got carried away. Similar like Prabhupada once also. I remember that was story in Melbourne, in Australia. He was chanting so deeply absorbed and he almost started to cry and he couldn't give a talk anymore. And he just said, just chant Hare Krishna. And he remained for some while completely silent. So Loknath Swami also, he finished and without verse, without anything, just asked, what do you think? What are we going to talk about today? What you want me to talk about? And it's like, you read between the lines, what answer you expect. So, what is the answer? What are you going to talk about? Krishna. Yes, exactly. And he was like, of course. There's no other answer. So we have to not forget that the whole scripture, even some verse maybe doesn't mention Krishna directly, but it's very much connected. And this is the first understanding what we are trying to search and achieve by studying, listening to the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, that everything is connected somehow there to Krishna. So this is the first principle, that all creation, everything around us is somehow directly, less directly, or even slightly directly connected to Krishna's will of expansion. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam gives quite a bit of time and endeavor to explain the creation, which is coming up later on in this canto, how Kapila Dev explaining all the creation, how it comes about from the original glance of the Vishnu up to the elements and the famous Sankhya philosophy. He is one who first explained this Sankhya philosophy. But it's coming up, and we are today studying a little bit more of the relationships of the parents and the children and the Manus. And Manu particularly is an important subject here, since Manu is the empowered person by Lord to give example and instructions the whole human society. And therefore, the manifestation which is explained somehow or another may be understood or may be misunderstood by even the saintly people. So therefore, Manu has given the Manu Samhita, the scripture, which explains in a length many small details how to actually act a proper way. So therefore, we are today a little bit of connecting the whole subject with Manu Samhita. Ashishi Prahlad Lakshmi Nrsimhade Bhagavan ki jai. So, let's start with the first thing, which is, as I mentioned, everything is pervaded. So therefore, in any subject, when we discuss the whole book, usually the beginning gives a main idea, main subject, which is later explained, and at the end there's a conclusion leading back. So any class, anyone who studies the properly scriptures or saints, they usually in a book give or like, listen carefully, I'm going to talk about this. And then he talks, and at the end there's a summary, I talked about this. Chaitanya Charitamrita nicely follows this thing. So he gives one chapter of all the leelas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he gives the leelas. And at the end he says, I was talking about these leelas. So there's like 3 times repetition. Always 3 times. It's very important. Same as the injunction of chanting holy names. Who knows the 3-time repetition? Famous. Harinam, 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 Nalo Nasti, Kalo Nasti, Nasti. So this 3-time repetition. So there will also, we start with something, when I try to summarize the end, it will be nicely. So very important thing to understand these things, that Krishna is pervading everything, and the impersonalists or people who are not quite accustomed to the personal devotional mood are not really connecting. My brother used to live for 15 years in Saudi Arabia, and he was kind of close in connection with the Muslim tradition, and he was a little bit perplexed in this Ramadan month when the people were observing the most holy months. It's like for us Damodar months when everybody worships Krishna and offers lamb. So they also the fast and they worship Lord. But when the day finishes, you know what happens? Sorry? They start to eat. Yes, exactly. Why? Because Lord goes to sleep, and doesn't see. It's dark. He cannot see. Yeah, it's interesting. Vedic system is completely opposite. It says there's always some witness which is always can see you, even if you think it's dark. Then the light, the fire, the ghee lamps are representing the Agni. They can see you. Like there's always someone observing your activities. Those who can, of course, gradually start to move to yogic understanding, they maybe come to the level that Lord Himself is present in everyone's heart. So if you maybe do some kind of activity which is not desirable or prescribed in the scriptures, but immediately when the devotee comes in the room, you stop it, Like you're chanting japa, and then let's say alone you're chanting japa, and then you chant, and then you want to check the Facebook instant away, like just get carried away. And there's Krishna's arrangement, of course. There's one finger you can browse the Facebook like this through the thing, you left out. Although we have to know this is the dirty finger, so nothing pure about it. But straight away, the devotee comes to the room. You kind of get together, put the phone down, and go on chanting, right? Everybody has this experience doing exactly. Right? Me too. So therefore, this the main important understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is present in everything in his energies, and after all, he is a witness of everything through the Super Soul, although he doesn't want to be seen so much. So if you look it carefully, like for a microscope, you won't see it here. So therefore, it's mentioned that Krishna is not seen by material eyes at all. He can be seen, perceived by spiritual eyes, which are gradually developed by devotion. Who knows the verse in the Brahma Samhita which explains that devotion is the special medicine which is allowing to see. Premanjana Shrita Bhakti Vilochana. Anjana is like an ointment applied to eyes which are blind. It's difficult to imagine when the person is blind. Just a month ago, I visited my father, and somehow by the old age, there's this white stuff accumulating in the eyes. It's how is it called? Cataract. And he has additional this thing glaucoma also, that the inner circle of the eye is also peeling off. The thing is just disappearing. He's 82 years old, and he's practically blind because of that. Even more, he went to the doctors. He went to the doctors to cure it with a laser, to cut it off, and they messed it up. And now he is like 10-15% of the things. One eye is completely blind, another one behind that white thing he can see in the side like this, little bit. He doesn't. You look at him, but when he looks at you, he looks like this. He looks away. So, but still, he's so amazingly determined to give his knowledge to others. He works in a computer, which is talking to him. You press something, and then he allows to talk. Just pressing like Alt and just all the commands what you do, just pronounce. But he's just writing some educational work. He's been teacher, let's say, Brahminical and kind person for his life. He's been teaching children and stuff like that. So he's still in this blind age, just trying to write his final book about education of children. Amazingly enough, but yeah. Many of our saints also have explained, have done similar thing, that almost blind they were writing. So Prabhupada also was very, very persistent. It's amazing. The video of last lesson given by Prabhupada is so impressive. How he is leaving the body and practically impossible to do any activity, and still he is dictating the Srimad Bhagavatam to the microphone, or actually that time already he was just talking and somebody was writing down, same time recording. So this endeavor done by very great acharyas to promote and give a proper understanding of the scriptures like this. So therefore, let's try to kind of getting also a little bit accustomed to this strange device, but it's not very easy. So, yeah, I get the phone, but the computer is working completely different. So, let's a little bit study more about connections of Manu, and a little bit verses later, I do have to run a little bit few verses ahead and give this nice explanation later on, commented by Srila Prabhupada. But I said in this verse, both Manu and his wife coming to see the sage. But we have to understand also position of the Manu. He is not just a simple person. He is a king. He's an emperor. He's a king. Manu is a progenitor. He's a original of the dynasties. All the Manus, all the sons and daughters coming from him. So he alone with his wife jumps in the chariot and looks into the possible husband for his wife. But that's Prabhupada explains that is because they are very, very much affectionate to his daughter. Since daughter is very dear, and they want to find themselves directly the suitable husband. Although the story goes quite interesting. The Lord himself appears before the sage and says, in few days that will happen. And that's the beauty of the holy people who are either directly experiencing Lord's presence or indirectly understand how this material creation works, and therefore can predict the future. And if you have a ability to predict the future? No? Really? Sometimes. If I ask you what's going to happen tonight at 6:30? Rarity, right? So, is it like possibility to predict the future? It's true. If we ask you what time the sun is going to rise tomorrow, you can say exactly which minute and second, right? If you are a little bit of a reader in the news or look in the calendar, it's every day in the next months and over a year and more, there's a prediction how and when sun is going to come up and which day is Ekadashi and stuff like that. So it's a prediction. If you are able to perceive and apply the knowledge given by scriptures, which are originally, first of all, come from the Lord, then we can predict also. Of course, there's a funny story which, there's a... I know, should I mention the movies or not, but sometimes there's a... I experienced one Russian nice Advaita-dhamma. You know Advaita-dhamma? He always gives the examples from the songs, Russian songs, And exactly you can find for every guna and every subject we talk spiritually, he can find a nice proof from Russian songs. It's amazing. Who have heard that? It's amazing. So sometimes I'm not so, expert in all the songs, but some movies I remember. So the one thing I remember from the Adriano Celentano, there was this bachelor guy, and he was a little bit of a strange character, and he said, "I also can predict future." And I said, and the lady was like, what's going to happen? Your soup is going to be cold if you talk too much. So, possibility of the predicting future is always there, and any other things which are coming from Lord, they're always existent. But the thing is, it is a little bit perverted form. Later on in this chapter, is also Prabhupada gives similarities to the Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma, we can say, doesn't exist anymore. Is it true or not? Do you concur? Do you agree with that point? That currently Varnashrama Dharma is not working? Yes or no? Sorry? Don't agree. It works. So Prabhupada's statement that the only thing I didn't establish Varnashrama Dharma. Is it true or not? True. In that sense, true. So both statements are okay, because in Bhagavad Gita is quite a few places Prabhupada mentions that Varnashrama Dharma is a system created by Lord. Chaturvarnamadishtam. Guna karma. They're divided by the qualities and by the activities. And from that point of view, we can say, yes, in our current society there is those intelligent people and the working class and the army, the protector guys, and even we can say the mafia guys. Which class would be mafia? If you hold a gun in your hands, are you kshatriya? No. Vaishya. Well, okay, that's a nice joke. From one point of view, it's true, because you are pointing gun at some person, but from other point of view, you protect your family. I think the one is the strongest bonds of family, You don't kill, you don't steal from your own mafia family. All these movies about mafia guys, I never met one, although there's one devotee who had a very, very direct connection in my neighbor town, actually birth town, which I was living in Letland, is Daugavpils, and he was quite also nice character. He was a bit of the bulky boy, and from his birth he had a bald head already, so Krishna shaved him already. Interesting. Everybody knows the Kurma Prabhu, right? The famous cook in Australia. He lives in Ireland, I think so. So there was nice example given by Mahavishnu Goswami. He said, if you don't want to shave, Krishna will shave you. And he was looking at Kurma Prabhu because he's getting bald already in the middle. And he was here and said, okay, he's shaving already. So this is the thing that always will happen if you are not trying to do. So the Varnashrama Dharma which Prabhupada was trying to establish was a little bit different, since he was trying to do the whole thing centered around Krishna. So there is intelligent, and there is mafia, there is kind of kshatriyas, there is everybody present in the society, but because they are not doing that on the basis of scriptures, on a basis of desiring to develop your society forward, and as an Arya principle is to actually follow the path of development. And if there is a question of development, the question is direction where to develop. So the question is about spiritual development. That things have to be kind of adjusted. So therefore Prabhupada said, in the same book, in Bhagavad Gita, he said that there is all the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and stuff like that. From other point of view, they are not, because they are degraded. The whole system is created, but they are absorbed in different levels of gunas, of the modes of material nature. So anything which is more covered, we can say, by false ego, material existence, is more degraded. So therefore, from one point of view, Varnashrama is one system which allows to be accumulated by, allowed to everyone take part in it, already based on your qualities. Like, if you talk about the same marriage question which talk about, and say, okay, let's find your husband, and then you say, I'm not this body. You know, I'm not the man, I'm not the woman, I'm spiritual soul. So that would be wise? Not really. Since you have your body, since you have your conditions, you have your desires, inclinations, ways of activities, and those things have to be used properly. And used properly, you can get married, such a thing, and you can use properly as a marriage arranged and supported and explained by Manu. And there's different types of marriages. Some of them are recommended for Kshatriyas, some are Brahmanas, some are for Shudras, and some are for goblins and Pisachas, You know the terrible marriages by goblins and Pisachas, Have you heard about them? No. There's marriage in which girl is being used, or I'd say taken advantage by, in a position when she's intoxicated. And then you just, sorry to use it, like sexually or just steal it or something like this. This is also marriage, officially explained in Manu Samhita, same thing, as a proper marriage, but for certain classes of living beings, and definitely not for human beings. Although Kshatriyas use also the stealing thing. Krishna himself, he stole Rukmini, right? But after that, the proper marriage was arranged. Very proper marriage. Although the system of stealing was a little bit of playing around. So therefore, here we understand also the father and mother of a girl wants to give it to proper husband. And later on, there's also a few verses later, it said, this is the girl you were willing to, you were dreaming about, you were thinking about for years and years. That means that man, although he was saintly person, although he was doing sacrifices, he was following brahmacharya, he was blissful and he was effulgent in doing austerities and his fire sacrifices and many things, still, he was thinking about, but he was not much doing about it. Why? He was completely surrendered at Krishna's will. If Krishna sends me some, I'll get it. If not, no need. Same thing about girls. It is explained here. The girls are not thrown on the street to choose their own husband. Because on the situation basis, you think, yes, he's nice, he's good, he's strong, he's beautiful. But what's his character? Some of those, I call the advertisement media guys and some art guys, they're pretty fancy. They very nicely smell and they're shaved and nicely dressed. But are they able to protect you? Are they able to maintain you? Maybe he's gay after all. Those are most nicely looking ones, for sure. Any doubt about it? Have you met any gays? No? This whole system is working. And same Manu Samhita I'm not sure, I think Manu Samhita also explains there's 52 variations of sex, according to, We just know the man, the woman, the heterosexuals, the gays, there's 3, 4. Actually, it's 52 altogether. Variations, just conscious of them. Same thing like 80,400,000, 400,000 human species. There are also different levels of consciousness. So Varnashrama Dharma given and explained by Lord and later on embodied in the scripture of Manu Samhita is giving ability for everyone, basically literally everyone, to be part of the Vedic system. But gradually understanding the nature of the person, we can engage that nature in a service. And the service starts with the service to your closer ones, to your family members. Wife is serving to husband, husband is serving to wife. Right? Or not? Both serving each other, or just one? Or just wife serving husband? There's definitely different answers from different sides. If we ask, what's the duty of a woman? Whose side we will get the most hands? Probably this side. And whose duties of a husband? They will know more. Agree or not? If I ask, what's the duty of a husband? Can this side say? What's the duty? The main duty of husband. Protect the wife. Okay. Something more? Provide with the financial things. Give the house. Yeah. Buy the jewelry. Yeah. Be sensitive to her needs. Control the senses. These are duties of the husband. Say the compliments. It's a duty. Bhaktivedanta Swami nicely explained, he said, just imagine a king having many, many wives. What he has to do at evening. First of all, he get up. Normal king. He's properly trained brahmachari. He gets up in the morning, goes to Mangal Arati or takes part in the fire sacrifice. Then he goes directly to his duties, his court. Talk to his ministers and stuff like that. So then comes shortly for lunch. And usually during lunchtime there's some also business meeting or king's meeting. And then afternoon, there's duty of the king look after his things, his army, his horses, his treasury. And after 4 or 5 o'clock evening, he comes home to his wife. Don't be surprised, that's for everyone. Brahmachari goes in the book distribution, Harinam, Vaishya is doing his work. Oh no, he's having business, Shudra has his work. Brahmana has his sacrifices, so there's not much time for the family life. Still, when the family time's coming in the evening, like for 5 o'clock till 7, 8, 9, 9, whatever, 3, 4 hours with the kids and wife, then he has to say their compliments. And the more wives, the more compliments you have to say. And you cannot repeat. Same compliment to 2, 3 wives. First of all, the compliment has to be relevant to the person. Not like I said, oh, you are very nicely dressed, and she's not very nicely dressed. Oh, what are you talking about? It's not sensitive at all. You have to be really sensitive, understanding the situation of the person, and say, yes, I notice that you actually made your hair nicely. It's a little bit more bluish color today than yesterday. And probably she took 6 hours to do it, but you didn't notice, Like in the Russian joke, it's said that the wife comes home and she has a new dress and new haircut, and the guy is completely ignorant of the stuff like this. They don't notice. Do you see the difference? No. And then she goes in the back somewhere and puts this gas mask on on the face, and she bumps back. Look carefully, and he just looks again like, did you shave your eyebrows? Yeah. The compliment has to be relevant, the situation, you have to notice. And each person is different. And next day, tomorrow, you cannot say the same thing. So therefore, 50 years is enough, you know. When it's said about kings and having many wives, it's a very hard thing to do. Yeah, for looking after horses and treasury and dealing with man, much more easier. And therefore, if you want to have a proper wife, you have to be properly trained. And interesting enough, the brahmachari training is doing this. Usually you think brahmachari means who? Nothing to do with women, right? Nothing to do. Brahmachari is like no woman at all. Not actually true. The Vedic system allows that your guru has a wife. Same Manu Samhita explains that you should not help as a brahmachari to comb your guru's wife hair. Because children in the family do that. The young wife of the guru should not bathe the brahmacharis, which usually is done in the family. So those rules and regulations are given in Manu Samhita because you have to distance from those activities which are based on your family relationships and material considerations. You gradually move to a spiritual thing. There's a distancing. But later on we read in the same Chaitanya Charitamrita, I can't remember who is the name, he was in Jagannath Puri, he was dressing young dancing girls and bathing them, and he was completely unaffected by that. So there's a kind of a curve of spiritual advancement. First, we have to understand the culture, the Vedic culture, how all the relationships go. And then we distance or reduce some things into the development of spiritual subject. And later on, when we advance enough, we see everything connected to Krishna. And we perform the service to Krishna. We can do anything. Yes. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was never making any jokes in the presence of women. Sorry, I'm straight away disqualified and try to make jokes here in the class. He never made any jokes in the presence of women. He never tried to listen to the woman singing or anything. But when it was talks about gopis and pastimes, he was completely absorbed. He yearned for that. So there is a kind of connection. Therefore, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam study, it is how, first of all, we learn the whole culture given by Manu, how to act properly. And later on, we distance because we try to intelligently engage something or distance from yourself. This is not the best way to use, not the best thing to use it for Krishna's service. But after all, we can use anything for Krishna's service. Krishna himself, he engaged in everything because he knew that. And when we follow his example, his scriptures, and his best thing. So therefore, just sum up, we can say that the main part of Srimad Bhagavatam is, first of all, stress the point, everything is connected to Krishna. Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, which explained to Brahma, I think it was the third canto. Which canto is that? Second canto. Second canto, 13. Yeah. He says, whatever you see not connected to me, understand that's illusion. So it's an interesting statement. So there is illusion, or there's the things which are not connected to Krishna. There are really a couple of questions come up. But if you see everything is connected to Krishna, you don't see an illusion. You're not an illusion. So when we discuss these subjects about the family relationships and the marriage and stuff like that, we understand this is a Krishna's system, how gradually one can engage his desire. The sage, he was in the beginning of creation, advanced and a very famous sage. Still he had desire, and the whole creation is created such a way that everyone can engage his senses according to previous desires from previous lifetimes, from previous creations of universes. When Krishna expands the universe, he has this desire, engage those souls who are in his spiritual body to expand and be placed according to their situation. Therefore, there is such a variety of planetary systems, variety of 8,400,000 living beings. Everyone has a little bit of different inclination. Yes, you are placed according to your previous experience, previous desires. But from this point on, you engage that in purification, in Krishna's service. Such a way you'll be advanced. So this is the whole subject of today's thing. Evening questions or additions or doubts, or jokes. Prabhuji? Hmm.
Krishna consciousness is not so simple anymore. But the question for me, from my side, is how to understand that Srila Prabhupada wanted one ashram dharma, and that this is something new for us. So how to stay like simple, but how to combine these things. There are so many rules and regulations, things like that.
When you learn ABC in a school, is that simple? Letters. How many letters are there in English language? 20, 30? Okay? Something like this. In Latvian language, there's more of these soft things, and esh and yen, like there's the 33, 24, 27. Letters, not so much. You combine them together, there's coming words. When you read Shakespeare, is it same letters? Exactly, the same letters. The meaning comes more. So the simplicity is simple when you connect yourself to the source of everything. So that should be simple. Although it's not so simple for most of us. Because we are thinking this is everything so complicated. But if you are connecting yourself all the time to the source of the things, it has been very simple. Famous quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Whatever it is difficult becomes easy if you remember Chaitanya, and opposite. If you forget him, even most simple things become most difficult. So variety is usually engaged for those people who inclined into the engaged. For example, can we say that brahmachari life is complicated? Not really. What about family life? If we look at the same varnashrama dharma, look carefully. There's 4 spiritual things and 4 social things. When we say about brahmachari, it is related to the all varnas and ashramas. Well, except maybe Shudras not so much in the brahmachari training, but still, this is everyone. Proper Vaishya is brahmachari, proper kshatriya is brahmachari, proper brahmana is always brahmachari. So this is training period, and that's the same for everyone. It's quite simple. You just learn. You just learn things, and it's not. When it comes to application, those things in later on life, complicated becomes family life, because at that point, the things are divided into the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. If you remain brahmachari, it is not applied to you. You are brahmachari, because that's spiritual division. You remain brahmachari. You cannot call yourself Kshatriya or Vaishya or Shudra if you're brahmachari. You're brahmachari. Same thing, you become vanaprastha, you forget you were before Vaishya or Shudra or Brahmana or whatever, forget about it. Now you are Vanaprastha. So when these things come together, start brahmacharya, then divides by 4 when you grihastha, and again comes together when you are vanaprastha, and finally sannyas. So if you're not comfortable on working or applying those things in a very diverse situation, which are necessary or desirable by those who are kind of grihastha mentality, you don't have to. There's famous saying, it's never said that vanaprastha should become sannyas. It's no scripture says that brahmachari should marry. But it's definitely grihastha should become vanaprastha. Interesting saying, right? You have to end those things. The variety, the complication has to be ended, one thing. Because when you come to spiritual platform, those things are not complicated. They are simple. When you are absorbed in Krishna as a person, it becomes so easy. Because he has a harmonic personality. His harmonious personality, there is no contradictions in him, although maybe not understood for those who are not devotees in such a way. Right? Why would you do that? It's impossible. But if you really understand Krishna, it is very simple. And he will exactly reveal to you how you should act to please him. He gives, he gives a knowledge, Bhagavad Gita verse, I give him knowledge how come to me, Even the beginning stage, it becomes simple. Because difficult becomes when you decide, we have to decide, and you have doubts and you have different desires, and the tree is like, the mind of the doubting person is like very, very multi-branched, But if you are single-minded, when you are directing yourself to the source of everything, to absolute truth, your life becomes simple. Although maybe activities are different. You say, they're going to be prasadam distribution, they're going to be harinams, they're going to be preaching, they're going to be this and that. But that will not confuse you. That will not make you complicated or not understanding what to decide and how to choose things. Because you know what to do. There's a sadhana, there's certain periods of time when you go in the morning around during japa time and somehow you strive to the pujari room and there's a morning sweets. And then you have a big problem, which sweet to take. Shall I take rasagula or shall I take burfi? Oh no, last week I took sandesh. That, there's going to be doubts, But if there is a sadhana bhakti, now it is japa time, now is breakfast time, there is no problem. It's simple. Because there is a Krishna system of varnashrama and Krishna system of a time lapse also. Krishna gets up. His wives are cursing him, or not him actually, the roasters who are waking up. But he's still doing it. He doesn't care. For him, life is simple. For the wives, not so simple. Yeah. If you are completely surrendered, then it's simple. For gopis, also simple. What do? Krishna calls, Krishna plays flute, you just run. Just run for your life. And you're not surrendered enough, somebody will stop you. You can try run, but somebody will stop you. But then because you were running but somebody stopped you, your desire becomes very strong. Next time Krishna plays flute, you run. Then Krishna says, okay, I take off all the parents, all the things they don't care about. There's a verse in there. They were so absorbed in Krishna that they didn't care. And this is social position. If we're talking now about varnashrama system here, we think, oh, it's so important and stuff like that. And it is important. In the Vedic system, when you actually come to that point, the social status is important. But just imagine giving up that status. It's like a widow, you know. You had your husband, you had your property, you had your father. In case something goes wrong with the husband, you have your father to run it, you know, take shelter of him. There's a whole social system. But the gopis, they gave up all the system, and not just for once. You give it up for eternity. You are nothing, you know. There's no social status for you. It's not so easy. But when Krishna in the center, everything is so simple. So that's my simple or complicated answer to your question. If you, it made a point? Yeah. And yes, Prabhu.
Where can I find the proper source of Mansamhita? We can learn something.
I know there's few translations around. ISKCON, non-ISKCON, stuff like that. Bhakti Purnaswami, he gives a whole seminar on Bhaktis, at least one definitely for Manusamhita. He has this 12-year seminary, and one of them is a course in Manusamhita. So, but the scripture itself, I just yesterday found some Oxford translation. It's completely put into the things, and many times I know ISKCON uses those translations which are there, but because you have a background of Prabhupada's basic truths. The main Sambandha Jnana is there. If you feel yourself situated properly in Sambandha, in philosophical truths, you can read any scripture, practically any translation even. Yeah, like this. You can even read the other translations of Bhagavad Gita. I don't know why would you do that, but you can read it, and you'll understand. For example, there's some people who try to translate Bhagavad Gita similarly in a verse, in a poetry way. So because you approach a person who knows the Sanskrit poetry, he will put it in a poetic way, and that will make some extra dimension in your understanding of Bhagavad Gita. But the philosophical point is coming from Prabhupada. So when we can try something. The question is, why would do that? Because if you just check at the database, Manu Samhita will be like hundreds and hundreds quotes Prabhupada giving, like this. And details, yes, details are also there. And many times, if you read, for example, same Manu Samhita, a couple verses or something like this, and then you remember, yes, Prabhupada mentioned that. He didn't quote that, didn't say, this is coming from Manu Samhita. But because it's rules and coming from Krishna, he just says that. And that's the beauty of studying. You first read Prabhupada books, you're completely based on the scripture. Then you read some samhitas and all the scriptures, and then you come back to Prabhupada and you see how beautifully, how simply he put very complicated and things into simple wording, and that's a marvelous genius of Prabhupada. He put the whole scriptures. He was reading when he was writing, as far as I remember, Srimad Bhagavatam. He had a book, not ISKCON book. Not ISKCON book. He had a book printed by non-Sampradaya somewhere in Vrindavan of 4 different translations of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he read them all, and they were not definitely put by his spiritual master or previous, but they were the scriptures, and because they were there, he was putting all these commentaries together, and he produced Bhaktivedanta commentaries, stuff like that. So therefore, I said, I have found few versions of this. One is online version, I can send you a link, but doesn't matter, you can find it yourself. So how would you decide which is bona fide? You refer to Prabhupada. If you see something is like strangely translated or misunderstood, you take as a part. That's a fault in translation, not in fault in Manusamhita. Like that.
Also find some, Prabhupada mentioned something.
Yeah.
This is from Manusami.
It was amazing. For example, one thing is, I just read in the same Manusamhita, but I know definitely there's quotes also of Prabhupada saying that everything belongs to Brahmanas. Everything is property of Brahmana. And now I recall in a Mahabharata is said that also in the Krishna book there's mentions that kings used to give the thousands and thousands and thousands of cows every day. And one commentary says that doesn't mean the cows were the completely new ones. They could be the same cows. Although there's a story about one cow being given 2 times and completely what happened. But there is a situation when king gives the cows to charity. And just imagine, you are Brahmana, you are a teacher. You're giving classes every day. And some king gives you 10,000 cows in a charity. What are you going to do with it? You're not going to milk it. Your wife not going to do it. What are you going to do? You give back to the king. But in that situation, king thinks, these are not my cows. These are Brahmana cows. He gave me to look after them. So this whole thing goes around. Same like charity, Some karmi, mafia guy, killer guy, drug dealer, he gives you a donation. What are you going to do? You can use it for yourself? Never. Either you give to the deity or you give to the other Brahmana. When devotees gave donations to Prabhupada, he was very happy. He used right straight away in different ways. But sometimes those dirty mafia, drug, whatever they were, cow-killing guys were giving donations. What he was doing? He just put it in a box and deleted it. He didn't care. I'm not going to use it. So such a way money get purified. If you receive donation from someone and you give to a Brahmana, both you get purified, money gets purified, and the Brahmana gets benefit. And when he uses that money, because it has gone through the second hands, is completely pure. He can do whatever he wants. So that's Manu Samhita. Everything belongs to Brahmanas, Therefore, we give to Brahmanas, Brahmanas give back. They distribute, they know who needs what. Yeah, this principle is universal and can be used by anyone. That's it. We are quite in time for next program. Prashadam time. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samavita Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Go Prema Anandi Hari Hari Bol.